How about that? Raptors win, moving on to the second round. Get it done on the road. Not only they win by 10 points. After heading into the fourth quarter, down 5. After trailing for the vast majority of this ball game, bench mob. Showing up, getting it done, and then Kyle Lowry closing it out. Again, we'll know who the Raptors are potentially playing after tonight. Got Cavs and Pacers still ongoing right now. If the Cavaliers win, we're going to be here Sunday doing game 1 of that series. But Donovan and I are hoping that series gets a little extended. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is, of course, Raptors postgame presented by MasterCard. Proud fan of basketball in the North. Let's start something priceless. I'm JD Bunkis. He is Donnovan Bennett. A pretty big night for the Toronto Raptors. And heading into this one, a lot of conversation about the psyche of this team. They're 0-23 in team history when trailing on the road at the half. They have never won a playoff game 0-16 when allowing 30-plus points in the first quarter. It really did look for long stretches that this team just didn't have it tonight. DeMar DeRozan didn't have it. The bench came in early in the second quarter, and after a little bit of a run, Washington went back out and got it. Bradley Beal looked locked in. John Wall locked in. And then all of a sudden, here comes this fourth quarter, and bench mob finally reunited in its full force, comes out, and in the first 6 minutes, takes a 15-7 run, and the Raptors never look back in this ballgame.
Where are we putting the statue, Fred? Bet on yourself statue.
All I know about Fred VanVleet is I think he's going to get some money. Like, I think that Fred VanVleet is
for merchandise sales.
He's going to for merchandise sales. One, someone tweeted at me, "Do you think Fred VanVleet's site sells out tonight?" I absolutely think it could.
It crashed.
It's down. The site is down. They need more servers. But second of all, I just his importance at this point, it's really hard to diminish it, considering at times when the Raptors looked a little shaky and when they looked a little frustrated and a little discombobulated, Fred VanVleet came in and provided what he's always done or always given them. Floor spacing, ball handling, and good passing and good defense. Like he did it all tonight once again. And that unit, it was like, okay, this is going to be a really lame reference, but do you ever remember the show Power Rangers? And you know how they would make the big, what was that thing called? Do you know what I'm talking about? They had a big monster that they would all make. A Zod? No, that's not right. Something. Somebody tweeted at me, at JD Bunkis. Thank you to producer Papa telling me it's a Megazord. They would make that Megazord, and it would be a composition of all of the 5 Power Rangers. There was 5 Power Rangers, right? And it all ganged up to make that super beast that would always take out the big bad demon. And here you had it. The Raptors had their playoff demons right in front of them. And here comes Fred, the last part of Megazord, the head of Megazord, and comes in and they eviscerate, they kill their playoff demons. Just a great night for Fred VanVleet. Great night for Raptors fans. You just can't discount the importance of bench mob to this group and what they've meant to this Raptors season and how they are, once again, difference makers for them in a massive playoff game.
I was waiting for you to bring that back.
To Megazord?
Some sort of relevant point. Like you should have gone Ninja Turtles.
I should have Googled
said Dwayne Casey's
what it was
Master
first.
Splinter.
Should have.
But I think Fred, he clearly, you saw his impact offensively. But I actually think the thing that shouldn't go untalked about, if that was a word, is his impact defensively. John Wall, 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter. When Dwayne Casey stuck with his bench mob, the infamous MOBB, but also put DeLon on Wall and put Fred on Beal and said, both of you guys, use your athleticism, see man and ball, and deny everything and force someone else to beat us. And yeah, they may hit you over the top for a alley-oop to Morris. They're not going to do that 20 possessions in a row. And I thought it was the stops that second unit got to allow them to not only get a lead, but extend the lead and eventually take the game home when the starters came back into the game. To start the fourth quarter, 15-7, they were that bench unit before either of the All-Stars were back in the game.
Well, and they were +9 before the Wizards were forced to take a timeout because they couldn't get any field goals. The field goals that they got while Benchmall was out there was off an offensive rebound, a scramble play goes around, and Bradley Beal gets hit for a wide open three. It's a bit of an unfortunate one. A couple of trips to the free throw line, and I actually thought one of them was a super generous call for the Wizards where Jakob Poeltl got his 5th foul of the game. It looked like maybe he was inside the circle, but if he wasn't, it sure just looked like John Wall ran into somebody with his feet set. But that's what the calling card of the bench mob's been all season long. Defense first. That's the identity of the group. And everybody chipping in, everybody making plays, the ball moving around, and everyone contributing. And one of the best plays of that fourth quarter, granted, wasn't the entire bench mob. It was Kyle Lowry, who we've got to discuss because he absolutely took over in that fourth quarter as well. But was the play where the Raptors force a loose ball and Kyle Lowry throws his body, his probably now aching body, to the floor, slams it, grabs a loose ball, gets it an outlet pass to Fred VanVleet, and Raptors 3-on-1 ends up in an N1 for Pascal Siakam. That really felt like the dagger to me in the ball game. It felt like the court completely slanted all the way to the Raptors basket. Everything started to look completely easy for them, and nothing came easy for the Washington Wizards. But yeah, that's that unit, man. Defense, they got a bunch of stops. They held them without field goals. They went on that run. CJ Miles comes down, hits a big transition 3 off of a steal. Again, offense being created from defense. And all these different guys chipping in, whether it was Jakob Poeltl grabbing offensive rebounds, or Pascal Siakam getting blocks and getting that N1 out in transition, or Fred VanVleet nailing a massive three-pointer, or DeLon Wright, who, after a pretty quiet game, and actually in my notes I was going to discuss, I wonder a little bit whether Kelly Oubre was right about on-the-road DeLon, comes up with just some massive plays in the fourth quarter, like puts Marcin Gortat in the spin cycle, finishes on him, gets a big offensive rebound, which didn't result in points, but again, clock is your friend, and ultimately played great defense. Just everyone from bench mob did something, even CJ Miles, who was quiet for most of the night. I want to get to the tweets early tonight. It's a big night. I want everybody to involve themselves with this. You can give us a call at 1-888-666-0590, 416-870-0590, or *590 if you want to dial in with Donovan and I. Producer Papa will screen your calls. Or you can tweet at us at JD Bunkis, at Donovan Bennett. Use the hashtag SNRaps, and you'll jump up to the top of the queue. Let's start with UK Raptor Fan Club. If the Pacers and Cavs go 7, will you be discussing your preferred opponent in round 2? I think it's pretty clear that the preferred opponent would be the Indiana Pacers and not LeBron James. That said, I will say this. The theme to me of this postseason run could be killing playoff ghosts for the Toronto Raptors. You could go out, you could knock off the Washington Wizards, who swept you in one of the lowest moments in franchise history, like when you thought We the North was taken off and they hurt you. They caused some changes to your roster composition. They embarrassed you. And you go on the road and you beat a team after trailing. That's one ghost down. Ghost number 2 would be the big one in LeBron James. And then ghost number 3 would be an older one, but avenging the graduation game and potentially beating the 76ers, who I think you're going to end up with. Like, you agree, right? There'd be something cathartic about beating LeBron James, but ultimately you'd prefer the Pacers if the goal is to get to the finals.
I don't believe in ghosts. Like Casper, nice movie, but I'm not worried about ghosts.
You don't believe there was this was a tough game mentally for the Toronto Raptors?
I think it was tough because Beal and Wall are good at basketball.
Oh, okay.
But I think the narratives that helps us in our business.
Oh, I disagree.
But the teams are totally different. If you're asking me who I'd prefer, I'm not trying to slay any dragons. I'm not trying to kill any ghosts or any of those other terms that we use that really make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in probability. And the probability to me says
you don't believe in psychology? There's sports psychologists. Are you going to put them on blast right now? Because they exist. You didn't see that tight end that just got drafted in the NFL in the first round yesterday because he got the yips. He couldn't throw a pitch. He's a converted pitcher to a football player because He went from being a prime pitcher who could throw strikes to all of a sudden he can't get it over the plate.
So your argument is the psychology would be better if they played the team that they've struggled against?
No, I think the psychology of the team was going into this game that in terms of ghosts, that there were real ghosts, that there was probably moments of self-doubt. And I think that a bunch of guys that don't have those same demons chasing them around really contributed to chasing them away.
No, I don't think it's about psychology. I think it's about reality. I don't think they're afraid of LeBron because he's beaten them before. I think they know that he can beat them again because he's very good. Because he's a guy who, in his draft class, we're talking about Chris Bosh, retired. Dwayne Wade is about to retire. When's the last you heard of Chris Kaman? When's the last you thought of Chris Kaman? Carmelo Anthony should retire. LeBron James is in his peak. Mm-hmm. He is an alien. Mm-hmm. And so I don't care about psychology. The reality is LeBron James is still, when he chooses to be, the best basketball on the planet Earth. So I'll take the better team in the Pacers, and I'll pass on the once in a lifetime player in LeBron James.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Ryan from Woodbridge tweets in, hashtag SNRaps, after a great game by the Raptors stars and bench. The only real question is, at JD Bunkis going to break his promise to answer phone calls again? It's the most consistent streak in the playoffs, at Donnovan Bennett. I promise. If people call in and they got good calls, we're going to take them tonight. We want to hear from some Raptors fans. So you can do that. Again, 1-888-666-0590. A bunch of just bench mob tweets. And Ryan's better tweet from Woodbridge was, how fitting was the last play of the game that it was a DeLon Wright block on Kelly Oubre Jr.? Yes.
It was amazing.
Let's get into this right now.
A meaningless play.
Kelly Oubre is most famous for getting called a bum by Drake. That is how people know who Kelly Oubre is. That when he ran by him, Drake eviscerated him. Other than that, you may know him as the backup small forward who had to step into starting minutes for the Washington Wizards tonight. He called out DeLon Wright before the game, saying that DeLon Wright doesn't show up on the road. And then after being asked about it again today, he had a quote that was roughly, I don't want to get into mental warfare, but then went on this weird rant about how if he dies, he'll come back and kill you, which was quite odd. Kelly Oubre, a bit of an odd duck, I would say. How did one Kelly Oubre back it up? Well, in Game 5, he shot 1 of 7. And tonight, he was 1 of 7 with 3 points, 1 of 3 from 3, 3 rebounds, nothing else in the box score except for 4 personal fouls, ended up getting knocked out. It would have been pretty good for him to show up. Again, DeLon Wright showed up pretty late in that game.
I mean, he did play good defense. He was a team-high +1. He wasn't hot garbage. He was just light trash.
I think for a guy that was talking a lot of smack before the game, you probably want to show up on your own floor and hit a couple of buckets, hit a couple of shots, and not have you be the guy that I'm screaming at the television saying, please shoot, please shoot. Joe, not that Joe. If DeLon is our son, does that make Oubre our grandson? Great question. I got to say, yes, but also that Oubre would be disowned. Ian Childs is Childs. Turning point, Kyle Lowry grabbing that loose ball or the CJ3. Which one was it for you?
Oh, the loose ball.
Same.
No question.
Yeah, no question. That going that way and turning into the Pascal Siakam N1. Listen, the Raptors, DeMar DeRozan had a tough night tonight. No question about it. He was fighting it all game long to the point where the team's regular season MVP, we were discussing it, watching it. It almost didn't really make any sense that the Raptors were going to put him back in the ball game. Dwayne Casey did, but he continued to defer. He didn't hunt his shot. He knew that it wasn't his night. He had given the Raptors a few brilliant performances, including his Game 5. They don't win Game 5 without DeMar DeRozan. They don't win this series without DeMar DeRozan. But the Raptors are a better basketball team when everyone's getting involved. And that's why the loose ball play to me was the play of the game for the Raptors, because you had your emotional leader, your engine of the team still in Kyle Lowry, doing what he always does, getting to the floor, making a hustle play. And then your guard, Fred VanVleet, who coming into this ball game, probably expectations were too high, and yet somehow he exceeded them, passing it to a guy who finally gets off the schneid in this series, Pascal Siakam, someone we've all been waiting on. When is Pascal going to show up? Serge Ibaka, another terrible game for him, but Pascal, 5 of 6 from the floor, 11 points, plus 18, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, one of them massive on Beal as it was coming down the stretch there, and they were just holding to the Wizards to nothing. So Yeah, I'm going to say that was the turning point in the game for me, but no question the CJ Miles 3 was big, big, big. They needed that one too.
But what do we talk about with Pascal and what we were looking for him? Those hustle plays, those effort plays, those energy plays, making some defensive plays with blocks, getting out in transition, getting dunks, getting alley-oop dunks. We saw the Pascal that we saw throughout the regular season. And I, whether it's, Fred finding him or him just reverting back to his mean, it was good to see that. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's not going to shoot 83.3% from the floor on most nights, but when he's running and when he's trailing and making himself big and getting into the paint with that hook with both hands, then yeah, he's going to shoot a high percentage because he takes high percentage shots. And I think that play was the biggest play because it was twofold. It was a stop to close a possession, then it spurred an easy offensive point, and it ended up being, you could argue it was a 6-point swing, because how many times in this game, in this series, did Washington get long rebounds? The Raptors defense is scrambling, over-rotating, trying to recover, and then they get hit with a Beal wide-open 3, and it's just a backbreaker. They were able to secure that long rebound, propels them into transition. They've got numbers, 3-on-1. DeLon Wright fans to the three-point line, which lets you know that he's feeling confident about himself. Siakam goes all the way to the rim, finishes with the and one. And that's why I think that was a big play, because it was paramount not just to get the bucket, but to get the stop before that. Something that hurt them, to be honest, in this game, which is why they were down double digits and how they were able to get back into the game and to outscore Washington 29-14 in the fourth.
If you want to look at what depth means to this Raptors team and what it can mean in the postseason, I think that you have to look no further than what the result of tonight's game was. The Raptors were able to take a series lead and put themselves into an elimination game without their sixth man, without a guy that comes off of the bench. He's very important to the team. Really, really, really important to the team. But ultimately, he is still the sixth man. And you, at some point, could have debated that it was different guys at certain stretches of the season. The Washington Wizards tonight lost Otto Porter Jr., who had been, not as effective as Otto Porter Jr. has been in the past, because clearly he was dealing with an injury. He was dealing with an injury all season long, and he couldn't play tonight because he ended up having a procedure that would knock him out for the entire postseason. It was a blood flow issue that was in his left leg. And what did the rest of the Wizards players do around John Wall and Bradley Beal? Like, who to you tonight was the third best Wizard? Was it Markieff Morris? Because he was all right. He was 5-9. He had 15 rebounds, 12 points. He stepped up. But outside of him, I mentioned Kelly Oubre Jr. with his 1 of 7, 3 points, 4 fouls. Nothing else in the box score. I guess some decent defense on DeRozan. But I put more of DeRozan's struggles on him just not able to get his shot tonight, not able to get to his spots, than it was really Oubre taking things away from him. Marcin Gortat with his 2 points, -8, 7 rebounds as a center, someone who had killed the Raptors, 0-3 from the field. Where was Mike Scott, the guy who had been the Raptor killer all series long? He faded away, 3 of 7, took some really questionable decisions with his shot selection tonight. A little bit overly confident, almost like how good Mike Scott was in the series ended up leading to his demise tonight. Ty Lawson was like nowhere to be found. Like, Ty Lawson didn't do anything scary. Satoransky, who was supposed to be this big scary guard off the bench, didn't do anything all series. Had to come in for Oubre, didn't do much, 2 points. And Jan Mahimny, 8 minutes, he was obviously a non-factor. Compare that to the Raptors bench tonight of just like who showed up. Again, moments for Pascal Siakam, +18, 11 points, and 8 rebounds, 5 of 6 from the floor. Got out in transition, did a whole bunch for them defensively. CJ Miles, who was mostly terrible tonight, let's be honest.
I disagree.
What?
I disagree. When Siakam guarded Wall, which basically meant Miles had to guard Scott, I think he did a really good job on him defensively. Listen, he finished with 7 points. He's not a defensive stopper, but I think he got down in position, guarded, got some loose rebounds. I think
he had no rebounds.
I think his really
no rebounds. Yeah.
All right. Well, my mistake.
Yeah.
I think he did a good job on Scott defensively.
Okay. Mostly he missed some wide open threes in that game where the Raptors had chances to tie it up or take the lead. Didn't come through, but again, had that big shot in that game, ended up being worth it. Fred VanVleet obviously can't understate how important he was, even though he was only 2 of 7. The assist making and the way that he settled down the Raptors, especially in the second quarter when they really didn't look good in the first. They were down 20-30, and just nothing was working. And Fred VanVleet came in, and all of a sudden things started to click. And after a really good push by the Wizards, the Raptors ended up down only 3 at the half. And I think Fred VanVleet has a big stake in that. DeLon Wright, of course, down the stretch in that ball game with the defensive effort. I think he had 4 steals tonight. He did. He had 4 steals and a block. The defense was amazing, and he was not afraid in the final moments of the ball game either. And then Jakob Poeltl, all over the glass, 3 offensive rebounds, got to the free throw line a couple of times, finished with 7 points. Like all these other guys, all these bench pieces ended up being the difference for the Raptors tonight. It just really can't be understated that depth finally comes through. And man, is it ever a positive sign heading into this next series where you could be facing a Cleveland Cavaliers team where you're going to need all hands on deck, and you see Fred VanVleet play the way that he did tonight, and you see the bench step up and play the way that they did tonight. Some more tweets at Frank Falco. Big win for Toronto. Fake by the lake. I don't know what that means. Zach Mujanot. The Raptors bench looked completely in sync and finally back with Fred VanVleet out there. Totally. Ian Childs tweets in, one more. I know it's early, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but will Fred VanVleet get interest from other teams to be a starter, thus creating a Biombo situation with being outbid? No, I don't see that. He's a restricted free agent, and as good as Fred VanVleet is, I don't think anybody's going to be throwing ridiculous type of money at him. There's not a ton of teams with salary cap room this offseason. I'd find it very hard to believe that he got a deal that the Raptors wouldn't even consider matching.
Well, and I think the other difference is, unless some team tries to be the Suns or the Timberwolves before them and say, hey, we're going to play multiple point guards at the same time. We're going to play 2 point guards or 3 point guards. Mm-hmm. And we saw how well that worked out. Unless some team does something absurd like that, then no, because the difference in positions between Bismack and Fred is there are only so many good 7-footers roaming this earth. Mm-hmm. There are not enough to fill out the league. There's a bunch of teams that just don't have good centers. And everyone's got at least 1 good point guard, if not 2. The Raptors have 3. They had 4 a year ago. And there are more coming out of college every year. So the supply and demand of the 2 positions, for me, says that Fred, although he'll get a nice piece of change, no one's going to give him 35 minutes a night.
Yeah, I'd find it hard to believe he's not a Toronto Raptor next year. In fact, I'll put it at 90+%. So tonight, there's a couple of I want to talk about Jonas Valanciunas and the positives of his game. OG Anunoby was terrific. Kyle Lowry, again, is one of the stories of the game, getting to the basket late, just made some incredibly tough shots in the paint, hit the floor for loose balls, ended up grabbing a second loose ball actually on a play where the Raptors had possession, but ended up snagging it back. Finished with 3 of 7 from 3, but had the 6 assists, 6 rebounds. Just a classic Kyle Lowry game. Took care of the basketball, only 2 turnovers and 24 points. He was by far the Raptors' best player tonight. Not even a close second to him in terms of importance. But quick discussion on DeMar DeRozan and Serge Ibaka. Because I said in the game prior that the Raptors should look at trying to get Serge Ibaka involved a little bit more early in his offense, so that he didn't hurt you by trying to force himself into the ball game. And that's exactly what happened. He had 5 shots in the first quarter, which was as many as he had taken in the last 3 games, where I think he had 3, 4, and 5 field goal attempts. Didn't really work out. It was 3 of 10, 1 of 3 from 3, only 3 rebounds. What do you make of what's going on with Serge Ibaka tonight? Because I don't think we need to spend too much time on DeRozan, because I simply think that every once in a while he doesn't have it, and other people did, and they identified it fairly early, and they went away from it after the first half.
I don't know if I've ever seen such a stark contrast from one player in one series. In game 1, Ibaka, 8 field goals, 23 points. Mm-hmm. You can make an argument he was the Raptors' best player in game 1. In games 2, 3, 4, and 5, he had 8 field goals and 23 points. Mm-hmm. Like it's so bizarre. And you know what? I came into tonight thinking, look at Washington last year. Canadian, Kelly Olynyk went off against them. They really struggled guarding bigs who can pass, who can play out of the high post, who can step out and shoot some threes. There is a recipe in what is another elimination game in the first round for this team for Serge to go off and have a big night. And he had 3 points. And so I have been a Serge defender. I have said that, well, he tells me that playoff Baca is going to be different. And so I'll take him at his word. And he was different for one game. And depending on who they play in the next round, and right now the Pacers are up 23 in the third quarter on the Cavaliers. You can watch that on Sportsnet 1, but watch it on mute. Who cares what Mike Breen has to say?
They're up 23?
They are. Lance and Tristan Thompson were going at it. Love me some
people in here might
ready.
have Sunday off. I'm just saying.
Don't jinx it, because we saw what happened.
I said might.
With Utah when they were up 20 plus against the Thunder. Yeah, depending on who they match up with in the next round, I think Serge's importance will go from really high to negligent, as it was for the bulk of this season. Not because they didn't need him, just because he didn't have it and they were forced to go in other directions.
Well, I will say this, though. At the end of the first half, I asked you about the power forward battle because it's something that we've gone over a little while. And the points were 17-10 for the Wizards and the rebounds were 13-5. And neither power forward had yet to establish himself. And then what we saw was Pascal Siakam dominate. He played great. He could D up John Wall. He could D up Bradley Beal. He could go and give you some size against a guy like Mike Scott. He started snaring rebounds. He started blocking shots. He even found his little bit of dribble offensive game, his offensive game off the dribble, where it was a little bit further from the basket than you like with the hook shot, but he nailed one. And I actually wish that there was one possession where he would have got a look from a wide open corner three where JV pushed one and he didn't get a chance. But you get that Pascal Siakam, and it really does change your margin of error for if Serge Ibaka doesn't show up. I think he will. I think you're going to see some inconsistency still with Serge, that it's going to be game to game like this. My only thing with him is just don't hurt the Raptors with the stuff off the dribble and the offense that the team doesn't need. If you've got your feet set and you got a clean look from deep 2 or 3 or even around the basket with the little baby hook, okay. But when it's contested or it's off the dribble like he did in the first quarter, those are the things that I find really inexcusable for a veteran player who's been to the postseason many, many times. We got a phone call. It's Mike. Mike, what's going on, man? Or we don't. Never mind.
No,
about.
Hello?
Oh, hey, Mike. What's up, man?
Oh, how you doing? Hi,
Good.
JD. Hi, Donovan.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
First of all, congratulations, because I enjoy you guys' podcast, so it's cool to get you on the live show.
Thanks, man.
This was, aside from a wire-to-wire win, this is the most the Raptors have felt like the Raptors from the regular season for me.
I agree. I
The
agree.
bench, yeah, the bench showed up like they're supposed to, and we got that fourth quarter Raptors lockdown that I've been waiting for a while. Because, like, the offense is cute and everything. It's all nice, but I really don't trust them when they're winning that way. I want to see them play really, really solid defense because it makes you feel better. I mean, aside from a wire-to-wire win, this is the best possible outcome for this game.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it.
You know what Mike said that I think is really profound? Mike sounds like a real nice guy. It makes you feel better. You're right, Mike.
Well, yeah, he complimented us, so yes, we like
I
Mike.
know. You don't got to suck up, Mike. There's no extra credit around here. He mentioned the
Wow,
the
way to bury
defense.
Mike after you
No,
just
no,
said
I'm
you
just
like him.
telling
He
him.
sounds
Just
nice.
Just get to the comment, get to the call. He made a point about the defense relative to the offense and what makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what doesn't slump? Defense. You know what travels? Defense. There are going to be nights when, and
Tomorrow,
tomorrow,
you're such a football player coming at me with this stuff.
I
Like,
know.
how many
I
times
know.
did you have coaches tell you
just
this?
do your job.
Yeah,
Little
okay.
Belichick. No, but it's true.
All right.
Because defense is attention to detail, and it's effort. Like, listen, Fred VanVleet is one of the best defenders on the Toronto Raptors. Athletically, there's no way that should be the case. He did not win the genetic lottery, but he tries hard and he's smart. And so for this team, which if we were just saying, hey, there's going to be a dispersal draft and you can pick players, there's a lot of other playoff teams where people, man, Look at the squad the Rockets have. Look at the squad the Warriors have. Look at the squad, even though they don't play nearly close to their potential that the Cavs had, even though they're probably better 5 years ago. For this team to be successful, the reason why they have been successful is because they get the most out of their athletic ability, but they don't beat themselves. And a lot of that is defense, because even if you execute offensively, there's going to be some nights, whether it was Kyle earlier in the series, DeMar at times, Serge for all of the series except for game one, where shots aren't going to fall. You get good looks, you get clean looks, and they don't drop. CJ Miles is hot to start the series, can't hit a shot after that. Mm-hmm. But defense really should never slump. And if someone continues to hit tough shots, shake their hand and say, fine, you win. And the whole thing that we've talked about throughout the series, going into it, to start it, and now to finish it, if John Wall and Bradley Beal are going to continue to take tough shots and make tough shots and not get help from anyone else, and that's going to be your recipe for success, you're going to do that 4 times? That's just not likely. And they were able to do it twice, but they couldn't do it. They lost 4 times out of 6.
There were a bunch of things about this game that were super, 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 super exciting for the Toronto Raptors and encouraging for the Toronto Raptors. I want to go through the checklist with you in terms of what you think is the most important projecting forward. I'm going to take Kyle Lowry's performance out of it and DeMar DeRozan's performance out of the series, because both of them, I think, have proven in this series that they are capable all-stars, that they are flawed players and that they are not perfect players, and that they are maybe not superstars in the game who can carry a team by themselves, but that they are a great 1-2 punch who on any given night can stuff the box score and win you a ball game, as DeRozan proved throughout the series and as Lowry proved tonight. But there were a couple of things that I think were question marks. And I shouldn't say that Lowry and DeRozan weren't question marks, but they did come through, and the Raptors did win in 6. One, that the Raptors go on the road and they take care of business after historically being such a poor road team and failing to translate so many principles to the road and coming through and knocking down shots and playing their style of basketball. 2, so one is that getting over the psychology of that, even though you say you don't believe in ghosts. 2, that bench mob, even in a small sample size, which is 1 game, at their strongest, at their full version, ended up going on a 15-7 run in the 4th quarter, where they took a lead back from Washington, where Washington put their starters back on, and Bradley Beal and John Wall. They locked them up, and they were able to get buckets. And the likes of Fred VanVleet were hitting threes, and the likes of CJ Miles hit a 3, and the big players inside were able to get buckets around the rim? Or is it 3, that Jonas Valanciunas over the last 2 games has changed his perception as a guy who cannot play in the 4th quarter and played terrific defense, moved the ball, finished, played with heart, and really did again, when I'm talking about the defense, I thought he was much better in the pick and rolls over the last 2 games, but really did a good job just contesting players at the rim and not taking fouls. So out of those 3 things, what would you say is really going to change the ceiling for this Raptors team moving forward? What are you most excited about?
I think it's the play of Jonas. We talk about culture reset all the time, style of play, the attention of detail within the organization, getting up threes. Look at this team last year at this time to this year at this time. I think one of the starkest contrasts is the play of Jonas. I mean, he's taking threes. That's nice. That's cute. But he was 1.5 points per possession when he was in the pick and roll with a point guard. And so that's not necessarily he's getting the buckets, but now he is an elite level screener, and not necessarily doing it illegally the way Gortat does, but a function of their offense is him basically being an offensive lineman. That's not something we necessarily said about him earlier in his career. The other part of his game, we saw it to end Game 5. We saw him close the game again tonight, and early in the second quarter, he had an impact. Scott Brooks routinely went 5 smalls with him in the game, and he stayed on the floor, and he was playable defensively. That was not the case. He was run out of the gym in the Cavaliers series for the last 2 years with Kevin Love shooting 3-point shots from the corner and people saying, well, like, he can't play. We were having the conversation to end the season of how fast can you move this contract? And so to now be here talking about the fact that he's an impact defensively with his length, with help on guys cutting, that he's staying on the floor and actually punishing teams when they go small against him, I felt there was still room for a back-to-the-basket center in the NBA. I did not think that Jonas was going to make this transformation. So I think he if he's playing like this, he changes the ceiling of what this team can be.
I think it's super encouraging heading into, again, potentially a series with Cleveland where you face some of the same issues. A dominant player on the ball who will have a bunch of scorers around him and force the center to come up and pick and roll action and make decisions. And of course, it's different. LeBron is a completely different beast than John Wall is. But I really think Jonas Valanciunas got better as this series went on. And he did a better job at letting Wall shoot that jumper, stayed true to saying, you know what, it's okay. You can continue to have that shot. I'm just not going to let you have things at the rim. Did a great job at when players got to the rim, staying up straight and using his size and his length to force them into tougher shots and referees to make a decision. I thought he did a good job even in those sets getting back on the glass, boxing out, being a physical presence underneath. I thought he's done amazing in pick and roll when the Raptors have involved him. And in fact, Zach Lowe tweeted out today that I think that it's with, I'll get it right, but the effectiveness of which they've been using him in pick and rolls has been over a point per possession when they're doing it. It's been working. It's been really working. And I won't go and say that there's not going to be stretches where he frustrates you as a player because he will get attacked on defense and he will have his moments where he looks awkward and stiff and he gets blown by. But in terms of changing the ceiling, I absolutely think it's big that for a team that thought Serge Ibaka was going to be critical to closing ball games for them, that JV is representing himself as not only an option but as a viable one is very nice. And again, it was Lowe tweeted out today at Zach Lowe NBA stat trend to watch per second spectrum. Raptors scoring 1.3 points per possession on any trip where they run DeMar Jonas pick and roll, and 1.6 when they run the Lowry pick and roll. It just shows you the trust that those players have in him now that didn't quite exist in the past, and that he doesn't just need to be involved offensively to be effective with this group.
You mentioned Kyle Lowry, who for the better part of the series was the second best point guard in the series. John Wall outplayed him, but roll with me here. Mm-hmm. Thought experiment time. You guys can weigh in. Hashtag SNRaps. Kyle Lowry hit 3 threes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Big threes.
All big.
John Wall was given threes and couldn't take them. And John Wall doesn't do much for you off of the ball, doesn't move much off the ball, isn't a catch-and-shoot player. As good as he is with the handle, getting to his spots, he takes the air out of the ball offensively because everything, when he's on the floor, has to come through his penetration because he's not a knockdown shooter. And finally, the Raptors, whether it was Siakam or Wright or Van Vliet, said, we're going to lay off. We're going to gap you and make you shoot threes, and we don't trust that you are willing to or can. We saw this similar things with Russell Westbrook in the Utah Jazz series, where he struggled off of the ball and struggled to shoot, at times, 3-point shots until he went off and hit 44. And John Wall actually has stood or walked on offense more than any other player in the NBA this year. 77% of the time. That's more than Dirk Nowitzki. The difference is Dirk Nowitzki is a catch-and-shoot player. I say all that to say, as good as Wall played, and we talk about the culture reset, was this series for you an examination of how your point guard in today's NBA has to be someone who can take threes, but also be able to catch and shoot off of the ball? Because if not, there is no spacing, there's no movement, there's no ball movement. All the reasons why the Raptors needed to change their offense, albeit for DeMar DeRozan's. But can you say the Wizards, as good as they were at times offensively, they run into similar issues because of Wall's inability to shoot?
in defense of John Wall, he hasn't, he had a tough night from three tonight, but I think it's very much like DeMar DeRozan because he shot the ball better than DeMar DeRozan did this year. He's shot it around 40%. So he has made strides in that area. I'm not going to just say he's a complete zero. The thing with him is
but
that
if he's not dribbling the basketball, he's useless offensively.
But I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that I still think that he's a capable 3-point shooter and he's gotten better at it. It's just that if it's a pick your poison, then yeah, absolutely, you'd rather have him shooting a three off a catch and shoot that gets a closeout, a guy running at him than Bradley Beal, or then he's doing it even off the dribble clean. But no, he's a streaky shooter. He's kind of like DeMar DeRozan. There's some nights where he knocks his 3-point down, and there's other nights where he's just like tonight, where it's 1 of 5, and he's really not that salvageable from out there, and you trust that he's going to miss him. 25% on the series, not very good number. But I just think he's one of those streaky shooters. I don't think he's a complete zero from out there. It's just that he's so effective. You have to gap him because you just can't let him drive by you. He's so fast, and if he puts you in the pick and roll, like you've seen, he's such a good passer that as soon as help comes, he's going to find that person. So I'm not condemning John Wall. If anything, this series made me feel better about John Wall than I ever had. If I was a Wizards fan and I was looking at this series, I'd be saying, okay, you know what? Otto Porter was banged up for the entire series. He couldn't play in the elimination game, and we took the number 1 seed to 6 games. And really, it came down to a bit of a collapse where maybe our 2-star players gassed out after having to carry this team and carry the load for so long that all of a sudden maybe there is a little bit more hope with John Wall, even though the contract is bad, and a little bit more hope with Bradley Beal. I don't look at them now and think that it's as disastrous as it was heading into the series for them.
I just don't know what your ceiling is if you're a team with a point guard who dribbles to initiate your offense nonstop. Rod Strickland is not walking through that door. The NBA has changed. And Kyle, again, although he didn't have the huge numbers, his offense is much more diversified. He can be a catch-and-shoot player. He can come off screens and shoot. He can be in the pick and roll as the dribbler, or he can set screens for someone else. We've seen him as the quote-unquote big in a pick and roll with DeRozan. He can take you in the post if he feels comfortable and both pass out of it and score. John Wall can get you offense, but you can only really do it one way.
Yeah, see, I would happily, as great as Kyle Lowry is, and as much as I like Kyle Lowry, I don't think there was a better player in this series than John Wall. And I don't think I don't think that any of the Toronto Raptors are better than him or more effective than him. And they weren't, certainly to me, in this series. And our friend Jory Middlestat tweets in at Jory Middle. Perfect road game by the Raps, hung around and closed. Beautiful. I think that was a big key to this contest, actually, was that when it did look like it could get out of hand early, that unlike series against the Wizards in the past and unlike road games in the past where the Raptors have collapsed and they haven't been able to do things if DeMar DeRozan wasn't carrying them offensively, they did hang around. I think being down 3 at the half was critical. There were moments, our producer Papa was screaming, I just want it to be, what'd you want, 8 at the half? You're screaming, I just want it to be single digits at the half. Yeah, and they were able to hang around. And part of that was Lowry's 3-point shooting because, again, he came up with some big shots. And part of it was the push they got from the bench at the beginning of the quarter. But the other part, again, was Jonas Valanciunas very early, contributing throughout the game when Jakob Poeltl got into foul trouble and they asked to extend his minutes, and he didn't look like he gassed out from playing 31 tonight, which was huge from him. But yeah, they never let the game get away from them. I don't think that the Wizards led by more than 10 after the first quarter. They did stretch the lead out to 5 heading into the fourth, but that's makeable for this Raptors team. They're able to come back from that. What you don't want is to completely collapse like the Cleveland Cavaliers are right now in Game 6 to the Pacers, where you're packing things up and planning for Game 7.
Yeah, they are getting punked. And I think it's a great point. And to me, again, that embodies the culture reset because on the road, it's tough. Bounces are going against you. Calls are going against you. That looked like it was going to be a blowout. Mm-hmm. They closed the half on an 11-4 run, get themselves within striking distance. You have the stat about, they've never kind of won a game on the road without the lead at the half, but you felt like they were playing much better just to get themselves back into it. Second half, it's a new ball game. I thought that was a character stretch to get back in the game that, if we're being honest, we've seen this team kind of go away and hide in the playoffs in that very spot in previous years.
Well, that's why when you talk about that there not being any ghosts and downplaying the psychology of this, I wonder because we talked to Bobby Marks today on Good Show, and he was mentioning that it does take the big difference is why guys miss shots in the postseason on the road is that a lot of it comes down to mental toughness. And can you be mentally tough to go out and win in a tougher environment? And DeMar DeRozan, his pregame quote about how it's like being at your friend's house. When you're at home, you walk around in your drawers, but you won't do it when you're at your friend's place. And I look at this, and I it's hard for me to underplay how important it was for this team. We've talked about reps in the past and being able to see something. It's like watching your shot go in, knowing that you can be on the road against tough opponents, be down in the fourth quarter, and still come back and win and close out a series. Like I really do think that these guys are going to be able to file this away and lean on it in other tough spots throughout the rest of the postseason. Like I do think that this was important for them psychology.
Well, we'll ask Jonesy, who was a teacher. He knows about psychology. I just think that when you talk about the
principle,
10, 11 guys who played, 3 of them really were factors in previous playoffs. Most of these guys weren't in a lot of those wars. So I don't think psychologically they're thinking about it. CJ Miles wasn't even on the team.
Well, then it's experience. Then you gain the experience. Let's bring in Paul Jones, Raptors analyst.
I think they're just better.
Hey, Jonesy, how's it going, man?
Be careful now. All right, man. All right, take care. Hey, JD, I'm just saying a few goodbyes here to the people that we've seen a lot in Washington, and I do have some TV duties, guys, but I can give you a couple minutes here.
No sweat.
Yeah, Donovan, I got a master's degree in sports psychology, and that and maybe $3 can get you on the TTC. Look, I called this one tonight. I thought they would do what they did, take the blows early. Washington would come out like a house on fire. They would survive the barrage, and then kind of run them down at the end. And that's kind of how you want to close things out. And look, the bench was terrific with Fred back in the lineup. That's all you can say. He did a great job. He's like the security blanket. All of a sudden, Pirtle, Siakam, these guys find their games with Fred back out there setting the table. So, not much else you can say about Fred's presence. And I thought the Raptors did a great job holding Washington to 4 of 16 in the fourth quarter. 4 turnovers. The bench outscores Washington by itself, 16-14, and then Kyle chips in with 8, and that's your ball.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so play sports psychologist for us. How big do you think that a win like this is going to be for a team, especially considering you didn't have a great game from DeRozan?
Absolutely huge. I mean, but this is the way it's been. DeRozan sat a lot of times in the fourth quarter when the bench was humming, and this is exactly what we saw tonight. And Dwayne Casey had the bench unit back in place, and he rolled with it. Look, this is what they've done all season, and they were finally healthy with a full squad and able to do it.
All right, before we let you go, play sports psychologist one more time. The Cleveland Cavaliers are currently being punked by the Indiana Pacers, which means there's going to be another game in that series. If you are the Raptors, do you care who you play next round?
No, you're the number 1 seed. Whoever they put in front of you, they're in my way to the championship. And I will say this, beware the blowout in the NBA playoffs.
Hey, Jonesy, go take care of those TV rooms.
Guys.
See you, pal. Paul Jones, Raptors analyst. I didn't understand that, did you? Beware the blowout?
I think he meant it's not aggregate. So as much as the Pacers can win this game by 40, they're not bringing it with them to Cleveland in Game 7.
I didn't know. That went over my head.
It is a new ball game when you're in a Game 7 in the King's house. I'm not necessarily saying they should. I just think it's human nature. There's going to be some congratulatory texts to Corey Joe tonight from his former teammates, and they're going to say, hey, keep it going. Because they'd much rather go to Bankers Fieldhouse Arena, or whatever they're calling that place.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Corey Joseph reunion as well. One side effect of this, one nice thing about this, because again, there's no jinxing it anymore. It's 110-81 with 4 minutes left. There's going to be a Game 7, which means that the Raptors are going to have Sunday off. But now you're going to have a little bit of an extended break, which is great for Fred VanVleet, who was seen icing his shoulder in the fourth quarter. It's good for Serge Ibaka, who, despite not playing very well so far in the series, could absolutely use the rest. It's good for DeMar DeRozan, who had a really heavy workload on his plate for this series. And it's same thing goes for Kyle Lowry, who's in his 30s now and who is diving for loose balls, that he can get that extra day to rest up. I think that, again, the Raptors are deep. They're always going to be able to find guys who contribute on a given night. I don't think that there's any rust from having from not playing 2 games from now. And I don't think that momentum is a thing game to game. I think it's a thing that happens in game. So I don't worry about losing any of that. This is big for the Raptors that LeBron James has to go and battle with this tough Pacers team one more game, even if, he does come out of it with a win. Guy saw pictures of him today with a cut open eyebrow. But I think most importantly, again, that's the big benefit here is that Fred VanVleet, a guy who's coming off of this shoulder injury where, he wants to feel more and more confident about being able to run into a screen and not have to think about that shoulder, will be able to rest it, ice it, and take care of it for an extra couple of days.
I also think it's big because regardless of who you play next, the 2 stars in this series, Oladipo and LeBron, have both played heavy minutes. All of these games, except for this one, have been close, down to the wire. And neither team, for me, is overly deep. Cavs have a lot of guys, but not a lot of guys that are playing well right now, which is why they're in the situation that they're in. Indiana goes 8 deep, 7 deep, which is normal. It's not bad, but it's not 11 like the Raptors.
They're a little deeper than that. They've got some guys because they've got the pair of point guards, and that's probably where you feel like you have the biggest advantage going into that series potentially, is that your 3 point guards, like you wouldn't trade any one of the Raptors' 3 point guards for either of the 2 Pacers point guards. Victor Oladipo is a star.
Yep.
And he's been really good. But we finally get to settle the who's better, DeMar DeRozan or Victor Oladipo debate from this season in terms of where they stack up all NBA wise. And we've seen, and I know that Miles Turner has made steps forward as a player, but Jonas Valanciunas has dominated him in the playoffs in the past. And that was when they had Mr. Jan Mahimi, but before he completely faded out and was an 8-minute player for the Washington Wizards. And I think that you're feeling pretty comfortable that your front court of Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, Jonas Valanciunas, and who am I leaving out there? Serge Ibaka. Oof, almost left out Serge. Is going to be better than Turner, Thaddeus Young, and Domantas Sabonis. Like, I think that you feel pretty good in most areas of that matchup. They're a really tough team. Lance is going to annoy you. Lance is going to piss you off. But they don't have the... If you're going from playing that Washington team to all of a sudden playing that Pacers team, just from a talent standpoint, like a top-end talent standpoint, all of a sudden the Raptors have a lead in that series.
So you're agreeing that they're not deep, or you're saying they are deep?
I'm saying that they have a bunch of guys, but that the top-end talent doesn't reflect any of the teams that the Raptors have faced in the postseason up until this date. Like Oladipo is a really good player. In fact, he's a borderline all-NBA player this season. But after him, like, this isn't when the Raptors played Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Bucks a season ago. It wasn't facing Bradley Beal and John Wall. It's not facing LeBron James. Like, from a talent standpoint, at the top end of the talent spectrum, that's the ideal matchup. Like, that's where you actually have the advantage, maybe for the first time in it's not Paul George that you're facing here. Like, you feel good about it.
Yeah, I also think you hate on Sabonis a little bit. I think he's a better
How do I
player.
hate on Sabonis?
Because you just don't think he's a guy, and I think he's a guy. I think he's a much better player than you give him credit for.
What? Based on what? I like
so?
Sabonis. Are you kidding me? That's the guys the Thunder traded away and got better away from Russ. Those are like my guys. I'm a huge Sabonis guy.
We
liked him at Gonzaga.
We argued whether or not he was a real piece of that trade, and I thought he was. You didn't. Anyways. Bogdanovich, Young, Turner, Oladipo, Collison, Stevenson, Sabonis, Joseph. That's pretty much it. You want some Trevor Booker minutes? Good luck.
Well, what do the Cavs have?
Glenn
like,
Robinson,
what scares
third.
you on the Cavs? Like, how many guys deep on the Cavs?
Bartholomew James.
Right. That's what I'm saying, though. Top-end talent, they take the lead from you in that series. The Raptors, I think after a series like that, that's, again, why it goes so important to see things like JV play well and to see the bench translate that when they have Fred VanVleet back in the postseason, and to see Kyle Lowry elevate his game, and to see DeMar DeRozan elevate his game throughout a series.
Are you arguing with me or agreeing with me?
I'm saying
that both these teams are not nearly as deep, and you said the Pacers are pretty deep.
No. Okay.
And then you said they have no top-end talent. So you agree or you disagree?
I think that the Pacers are deeper than you're giving them credit for, / don't have the top-end talent, but that the Cavs do have the top-end talent, but also are not as deep as the Raptors. Nobody's as deep as the Raptors. Raptors are the deepest team in the NBA. That's the calling card. And that's what I'm saying. It was so positive to see them work tonight and actually have it benefit and play out where you have this 5-man unit that people were saying, oh, maybe the bench doesn't translate when Fred wasn't there. Remember how many games that the bench was minus in this series and the times that they tried to get away with the bench units against Washington's bench units and it either played out to a standstill or to a minus? That the difference between Norm Powell, sadly, and Fred VanVleet right now, based on that one game, is massive. Like it's proof that 5-man unit can be super effective. That you can't get away with sitting Bradley Beal for very long, as the Wizards tried to do at the end of that or the beginning of that fourth quarter, because they got their teeth kicked in, and Scott Brooks had to go to him very quickly, and then those guys end up gassing at the end of the game because they're carrying the entire weight. Like the best players on the Raptors, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, played 32 and 33 minutes. Bradley Beal and John Wall played 10 more minutes each, based on position. Wall, 40 minutes, Beal, 43. That happens because you don't have the depth. You're not able to rest your guys down the stretch. You're not able to supplement the lineups when they're not in. Like, it's so critical to have those pieces and have them run that way. And I think that it'll prove very important in a series against either one of these teams because they are deeper. And I think that's going to be the big thing against the Cavaliers. Like, can you just do enough against LeBron James? Can you really punish the Cavaliers anytime that he sits down on the bench and has to eat a few minutes? Like, those are going to be the things that really pivot the series for the Toronto Raptors moving forward, other than, of course, getting solid contributions again from your stars.
Yeah, the Cavaliers have depth in numbers. They have a lot of guys that they give minutes to, and they have a specific role. The Pacers don't. They have 8 guys that are going to play, and come hell or high water, those are the guys you're going to face. The Cavs on any given night, you're not sure which 12 guys are going to play. This is not even including George Hill, who's struggled to be healthy in the playoffs. You know he wants to face his former team in the Pacers, his former area where he grew up. But with the Cavs, J.R. Smith is probably going to start at this point. Obviously, LeBron's the best player in the world. Kevin Love is going to start. They've played around with Korver and his minutes. Jose Calderon has actually given them some average point guard play and lit up the Raptors last time they saw him. Then you've got Clarkson, Nance Jr., Hood, Green. Tristan hasn't played, and now he's back in the rotation, it seems. And every once in a while, you'll get some C.D. Osman time in the first half. They've got a lot of guys that they play, so they have depth in numbers. They don't necessarily have depth in talent.
Yeah, there's nobody on that roster outside of Kevin Love and LeBron James that really scares me. George Hill has his moments, and I think that maybe, he'll do a decent job at getting into Lowry, but ultimately the Raptors, talent for talent, spot for spot, other than LeBron and Kevin Love, shouldn't be that great of a contest. I like this quote. Van Vliet said, running the team and playing defense and stuff, I can do those things in my sleep. It's just going to take a little bit to get the scoring back. I was a little rusty out there. I thought that was kind of a fair assessment of his game tonight because he did have the one big three that he knocked down. But that's the best thing about what you saw from Fred VanVleet tonight was that in his 19 minutes, he was only 2 of 7 from the floor. He still ended up at plus 12. He was moving his feet extremely well on defense. He found some teammates at the rim. He made smart decisions. He only had the 1 turnover. But that the ceiling is much higher for that player. And again, going back to the rest from a little bit and getting him, just in the gym and taking some shots and at least getting those reps in tonight, I think that was big for him. The Raptors only have room to go up from here. I think this is a great night for Raptors fans. It's a great night for the Raptors team. A great night to be those guys heading back on the plane to Toronto and preparing themselves for a game 1 after this Pacers and Cavaliers teams. They go to 7 and they battle it out. So we'll be back. I think it'll be Tuesday.
Most likely
Tuesday. Most likely Tuesday.
It has to be Tuesday. It can't be Monday.
Well, I know it wasn't going to be Monday. I just maybe thought there was potential for Wednesday. But we'll be back here Tuesday to do a little bit more.
We don't know.
Well, I think we know. Again, this is Raptors Postgame presented by MasterCard, proud fan of basketball in the North. Let's start something priceless. I'm JD Bunkis. He's Donnovan Bennett. Thanks to everyone for listening, watching.
Thanks to the bench mob.
And
which was priceless.
Thanks to the priceless bench mob.